Welcome to Breaking and Adventuring, where we invite you into the world of the Adams County Sheriff's Office and beyond. We're going to share backgrounds, stories, and experiences of the men and women of the Adams County Sheriff's Office and the greater law enforcement and public safety community. So I'm your host, Sergeant Adam Sherman, and today I have with me Sergeant Shea Haney. We just met, so I'm just trying to get to know him. We're going to discuss the life of a new sergeant and what brought him to want to be a supervisor, and what are some challenges he's faced so far, and how to find balance and a little more. So we'll get it started. So as I mentioned, we just met, so it's nice to meet you.
Just known you for 16 years.
Yeah, just kidding. So Sergeant Haney and myself, we actually went through our academy together. So he was one of the first people I met, even involved here, and actually. They brought one little. I don't know. Do you know what this is?
Oh yeah, it's the Academy Yearbook.
That's our little Academy Yearbook. Let's see if we can find baby Sergeant Haney. But while I do that, there he is. While we do that, why don't we just get a little background of who you are and what brought you into law enforcement in general?
All right. Yeah, thanks for having me. So I started obviously with you in 2009, January 2009, at class 5 at our academy. Went to the jail after that for a couple of years. Spent 3.5 years in the jail. Oh, look at that. I don't even think I have that book, actually. That's
beautiful.
That is beautiful.
So look at that little guy.
That's the first time I'm seeing that. So thanks for sharing that. But anywho, so 3.5 years in the jail. And then I went to patrol for a few years. Yeah. Went to our community resource team for a couple of years after that.
So by community resources, what did you guys do? Do you hand out first aid kits and stuff?
No. So we went to community meetings. We dealt with the transient issues.
Okay.
Some human trafficking issues, just neighborhood, quality of life issues within the county.
Gotcha. So hotspot stuff that would pop up, you guys were basically directed to take those out.
Yeah. So and then other than that, we would, try to find fugitives and, conduct traffic stops and some proactive policing.
High speed. Nice. All right.
After that, I went to the FBI. I was a task force officer for the Joint Terrorism Task Force.
Yeah.
For about 5 years. Came back to the road for a few months and spent 1.5 years up in detectives. I worked property crimes, persons crimes, financial crimes. Helped out with a few critical incidents. And then July of last year, I got promoted to sergeant, and I've been a patrol sergeant ever since.
Sweet. And so even going back to when you were on the Joint Terrorism Task Force, so you had dual capacities. You were actually sworn in as a part of the FBI for that time, correct?
Yeah. We were
nice.
U.S. Marshals technically, but yes, we were sworn
never
in.
Mind.
And we worked out of the FBI's office.
Cool.
As a member of that squad, and then through the sheriff's office.
Awesome. And just you can add in too, but just the benefit of doing that is you're bringing the local knowledge of the Adams County area that you brought to the team, but obviously with the federal capabilities and resources, and then the dual capacity of other agents and officers and deputies from other jurisdictions, you guys could then continue your investigations on a wider scale than just from a local jurisdiction aspect. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. And I was the first TFO to be down there from the sheriff's office. So it was a learning experience for me, but it definitely, there's TFOs from all over, different agencies.
What's a TFO?
Task force officer.
Nice.
Yes. They're from all over, and they work cases, locally and nationally. So it was a good time.
Nice. All right. So then, as you mentioned, so since July, so roughly, what are we, about 9-10 months ish
about that
in your current capacity?
Yep.
So, when you first got started, so way back 16 plus years ago, and looking back, was it what you expected? Because I know you've got some family members that were also in law enforcement. So, was there anything a surprise when you first got deputized and went through your career, or was it pretty much kind of what you were told and experienced
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of been what I was told. Like you said, I have family that all worked for Denver. My dad and my 3 uncles all worked down in Denver. My nephew's the Denver sheriff's deputy now. And growing up in a police family, we they told us kind of what was going on, and I didn't talk shop with them a lot, but it definitely was what I expected going through. Obviously, I work for a different department than they did, but yeah, no, I think it's kind of what I expected.
Yeah, and we're in the Denver metro area ish, so there's a lot of probably similarities of some things, I'm sure. Or I guess we'll go back to when you first. So you test for promotion. So what was your first thought when you found out you were actually going to get promoted to a sergeant position?
I don't want to work graveyards again, but I did. Obviously, I had been 9.5 years. No, I was excited. It definitely. I felt like it was time. It was time to take that step in my career. I had been in the jail. I'd been on patrol. I've been in detectives. I've done, a lot of that kind of stuff and built up some knowledge. So I wanted to help pass that along, and so I was excited. And it was time. My family was okay with everything. I talked with my wife, and everybody was ready for that step.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was excited when I got, told that I made the list, and then, when I finally got put on shift.
No, and I agree, and I benefited from the aspect of just being able to pull stuff from my own career and experiences to when I became a supervisor, saying, here's what I need you to do, and here's why, and things like that. And so, I know with your diverse background and experiences, you're able to bring that same thing to your shift and your deputies. So I'm sure that's been beneficial as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I didn't spend a whole lot of time as a case carrying detective, but the time that I did spend doing that, definitely helped my new role as a sergeant being back on the street.
So speaking of that new role, so has your perspective changed at all now going from a deputy / detective to now a frontline supervisor?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't think you realize it until you do it. The management side of things and trying to manage your folks and the call load and everything else kind of at once. And so my perspective definitely has changed to, in that aspect. And then also, taking care of my people, right? Like when you're a deputy, a detective, you have your own assignments, you have your own thing, you're doing your own thing, right? But as a sergeant, you're responsible for everybody, right? You need to know where they're all at, what they're all doing, make sure everybody has what they need. So kind of having that overarching perspective on everybody, definitely changed in that respect. So.
Yeah. A much broader scope for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then you have to look at things from the agency side of stuff as well that maybe you didn't look at as a deputy or a detective. And so that plays into your decision making and your kind of day to day as well.
Now, looking back, is there anything that you now realize as a sergeant that you may have taken for granted as a deputy or as a detective that you have to deal with? Or
yeah, I mean, like I said, just kind of being able to zone out a little bit. I mean, as cops, we're kind of on most of the time, right? But as a sergeant, you're just listening to everything, right? And you got to so there's really not a lot of time to just be like, hey, I'm going to tune out for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, my district's on lockdown. I'm good.
Yeah, you really can't do that as a sergeant, right? And so some of that, but yeah, no, I mean, I enjoy my new role. There's definitely pros and cons to it. So
yeah, no, I mean, it's a big juggle too. I know it's easy to make fun of a sergeant, but yeah, even if you're in the office, you're doing, evaluations, or you're setting up your schedules, or approving time off, or approving tons of reports,
right?
All while you're still monitoring and kind of having that mental image of where your people are, what calls are on, and what's pending, what dispatch is notifying you of. So yeah, you're constantly juggling and trying not to drop anything at the same time.
Right.
So what's one thing people would be surprised to learn about just the day-to-day life of being a sergeant? Like fun, challenging, just...
I mean, it's fun. It definitely is. It's a good time, right? That's the good thing about being on patrol in general. You don't know what calls are coming next. You don't know what the day holds, call to call. I mean, like I said, it definitely is challenging, especially as a new sergeant, just kind of getting at your grasp on everything and making sure all the boxes are checked, right? Everybody's, like we talked about, everybody's got what they need.
Yeah.
All the calls are getting handled appropriately while we're trying to teach and mentor and also keep, the county flowing. And then keeping up with the administrative tasks on top of that. It definitely takes some time to get in that groove as far as making that all work well. And as a new sergeant, it took a little time, and I'm still learning. Obviously, I'm only at 9 months in on the street, but I have a good shift. We have good people that work for us, and they make it a lot easier for me by the way they do their jobs. So,
yeah, I found similarly where the shift I went to was a well-oiled machine. It seemed like, so I was able just to kind of sprinkle in just some of my background. Right. But yeah, it's very cyclical to where they were taking care of me as much as I found myself taking care of them, and making sure that the shift was functional and things.
Yeah, it definitely helps when it works that way for sure.
Yeah, and I walked in. I'm like, hey guys, I haven't worked patrol in forever, so help me so I can help you.
Right. Yeah. Outside of my couple months between the FBI and detectives, I had been off of a district for almost 10 years, and I mean, that's, I think a lot of times too, with new sergeants, that's kind of a hurdle is coming back, right? Cause a lot of times people will have different assignments, prior to getting promoted, and then they get promoted and they're either usually on patrol or in the jail. And I mean, if I started in the jail, I hadn't been in the jail since 2013, early 2013. Yeah. So it'd been 12 years since I had done that job. But yeah, so it takes a little.
So you mentioned taking care of your team and how they take care of you. Are there any steps that you've had to take or that you've taken to just build that trust and morale within just your shift, your unit?
Yeah. I mean, when I first came in, I took over the shift, obviously, from another sergeant, right? And he had his expectations and his way of doing things. And as a new sergeant, I have my way of doing things, and sometimes those don't meld, right? And so I kind of came in with an expectation and got some pushback, right? It wasn't necessarily the smoothest start. But over time, I worked from my end and worked with my guys, and I think we've kind of work through some of that, and I just think sometimes taking over a new team, especially if sergeants are doing things, maybe a little differently or have different perspectives and different point of views, it's kind of hard to get there. But as we work through it every day, we're working together, working through calls, we're talking through stuff. We've built that trust over time.
Did you hit him with one of these? Like just point at your stripes?
No, I haven't yet, but
okay. Yeah, I found that doesn't work very well.
Right. Yeah.
So how do you balance now being like a leader and a supervisor, but also a peer to people who you were deputies with and detectives with, but now you're a, kind of one level up? I mean, it's weird. What's the approach there?
It's definitely a transition, right? Guys that I've been agency with who aren't sergeants call me Sarge, and I'm like, but I've known you for 10 years, so it's definitely a different in that respect. But I have friendships at the sheriff's office like you do, and we still have those conversations, and I think people know when it comes to work, if I have to be Sergeant Haney, then I have to be Sergeant Haney, right? And they kind of just roll with that for the most part. It's definitely different with some folks when you get promoted, when you're going from that role of deputy or detective and now, you take that step. But I think it's kind of like with my shift, it just takes a little bit of time to work through that new, cause it is what it is, right? Like, I'm now in a different role. I have a different kind of assignment, not a different person, but just kind of figuring that out with some folks.
Yeah. I think that's key too. And I found that like authenticity is huge in that. Like you're still you and you have your experiences and you're bringing those to the shift, but you're not changing who you are now that I'm a sergeant, so I'm going to do this. It's like you're still authentically you, but and at least for me, I've never changed who I am and how I treat people. And I've been able to, joke and still be, peers.
Right.
But then, when we're out and I'm like, no, we're doing this and here's why, or, hey, nope, you can't have that day off. There is that respect level and trust that's been built in to where it's a non-issue. So, but I mean, and that takes time to develop sometimes, but I think authenticity is huge in getting that, laying the groundwork.
Right. And, and that was kind of hard with my shift because I didn't work with a lot of them. Right. Mm-hmm. We're fairly young on patrol. And so when I was on patrol, a lot of the guys I was on patrol with are in detectives or either in detectives or they're now sergeants and above, because at 16 years, that we don't have a lot of 16-year patrol cops.
Yeah,
so.
You got some gray in there.
Yeah, it's expanding. So I started off with a little bit, but
we talked about the trust, so that's key, and I'm glad you hit in on that as well. I mean, that's there no matter what level you go throughout an organization. Well, looking back, what would you say has been the most rewarding part of your career so far? Is there any like standout cases or just instances or just even now that kind of mentorship aspect that you're, going to this new shift? And so,
I mean, seeing these guys doing a good job every day, obviously has its own rewards, from my perspective is like growth as a sergeant, dealing with some of those more complex calls, working through those situations. We've had a few of them since I've been a sergeant, obviously, that kind of challenge me and my, skills.
Yeah.
But I think the most rewarding thing is just seeing these guys kind of grow through their job every day and just try to help them, right? If they call, try to answer the question, try to make sure that they're setting up for success.
Yeah.
And seeing that is definitely the most rewarding for me. But yeah, the most challenging, from my growth is just working through some of those calls as a supervisor, making sure I got perimeter set up or making sure crime scenes are taken care of and notifications are made and all of that. But the guys are doing the real work.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, seeing those guys do what they do every day is definitely the most rewarding for me.
Yeah. No, similarly, I would kind of mark it as a little win. Like if we had a big call or homicide or something to where my team basically handed over to detectives, or even if there was like a district attorney that was coming to assist, but they were like, awesome. Like you gave us the perfect,
right,
exchange, or, when you hand over the baton of this incident, of this crime scene, that they've, it's basically right in their lap and they can just pick it up and go. They don't have to go back and retrace things, or there's no complaints or stuff. Right. So to me, that was really rewarding to where, through teamwork and whatever else, that we're working seamlessly with these other entities within our organization or even, outside of our office as well. So, I mean, that's a testament to the deputies doing the work and their dedication. It was huge. So it was always, good high fives all around on shift for that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And our detective division's real great about, kind of acknowledging the work that these guys do and making sure they know, when they do a good job, and we try to make sure that they get acknowledged for that.
Nice. So now that you've been in this role for about 9-10 months, what are you most excited about as you kind of look forward to the next kind of handful of years of being a sergeant? Is there anything that you're like looking forward to, or just?
Yeah, I mean, just kind of growing in my spot, right, and kind of learning and making sure that I'm comfortable in the role and just kind of the challenges. Like I say, I mean, every day is different, right? And every day poses its own challenges. I mean, I have some career goals down the line, but right now I'm just kind of focused on my role here as a patrol sergeant and just trying to learn what I can and experience as much as I can while I'm doing it, and just kind of go from there.
Now, is there anything you're nervous about? So kind of the flip side of that.
Not necessarily, but I'm sorry. I know.
Come on.
I know. No, I mean, like I said, it just sometimes there's days, right, where it seems just kind of piles on, right? And so, just kind of working through that. But I wouldn't say nervous about anything, but we just don't know what tomorrow holds, right? And so just kind of take it one shift at a time and, try to build up my team the best we can and go from there.
Well, and especially, I mean, in all the settings within law enforcement, but especially in like a patrol setting, like you mentioned, we don't know what next call we're being called to or what we're going to stumble across or contact. So there's a huge X number there of what we might potentially have to deal with. So yeah, there's just inherently some nervousness, and
Right.
I know just for me, especially as I'm, trying to run a shift, I didn't want to do anything that would kind of hinder my team. And then again, some of those other entities that rely on what we were doing to then set them up for success. So I didn't ever want to be the reason why something didn't get done, or somebody wasn't prepared for a promotion. Cause that made me nervous. Cause I definitely looked for opportunities to, just sit down with my peeps and just check in. How you doing? What are your goals?
Right.
And a huge win is when they do kind of promote out of their spots or go to, I had a few that have now gone on to specialty units or up to detectives and things like that. So for people to attempt that, and maybe there's something else I could have done better, that kind of was, I would keep in the back of my mind.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, that's kind of, we're in that weird, sergeant is one of those weird worlds where you're still kind of on the front lines, because there's times where you're still going to be the first one to a call. You're still pulling over cars, but then you're also that mentor, that supervisor overseeing as everybody's doing everything too. So, yeah, it's definitely a dual purpose.
Yeah, we wear a few hats for sure.
All right, so we'll transition a little bit, just kind of play like a what if game. So if you hadn't gotten into law enforcement, like if you're totally like, no, dad and uncles, I'm not going to be like you guys, where do you think you would have ended up? What's another kind of field you think you would have been good at?
Well, I really don't have any other job skills outside of law enforcement, so I'm not entirely sure.
No bow fighting skills?
No,
skills?
I'm not much of a ninja myself. I don't know. I mean, probably something in public service somewhere. I mean, I should have been a firefighter.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, they have it pretty good.
Those chairs are comfy.
Yeah. They got a pretty good setup. So that probably would have been the route, or should have been the route.
Or maybe like a professional lacrosse scout, or like a
they probably don't make too much money.
Yeah. I know you're a big lacrosse guy on the.
That's right.
Big fanatic.
Yep.
Do you have, I don't know, because some people do you have like a favorite movie or cop TV show that you like, it's kind of a, I don't know, entertaining for you?
As far as cop TV shows, probably the best one's Brooklyn Nine-Nine. My wife and I tried to make it through the first time, like the full all the seasons. We hadn't yet, but we're rewatching it. Movie, probably, I'm a superhero guy, as you probably know. So the first Batman, probably
like Michael Keaton Batman?
Keaton, yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
My mom actually said I watched it routinely when I was 2.
Okay.
Watching it now as an adult, I don't know if that was probably the best thing to watch when I was 2, but it's fine.
Yeah. You're going around to like your cousins, like, you're my number one guy.
That's right. Yeah. Apparently I danced around as the Joker when I was like a 2 or 3-year-old. So,
Became a big Prince fan.
Yeah. Not anymore.
No, but I would say I'm not a huge superhero guy, but yeah, those first 2 Michael Keaton Batmans definitely I think are the best ones. But now Brooklyn Nine-Nine, how accurate is that for our law enforcement world, would you say? I know it's a comedy.
There's some that's, there's some bits of it that are accurate, but it's a good show. It's a good show. Yeah.
No, I mean, I think I try to describe it that way. I mean, like, especially on the patrol setting, but in detectives and even in the jail, there's enough downtime where hilarity does ensue.
Right.
We like to make fun of and prank each other, but then protect each other at the same time and take care of each other.
Yep.
But yeah, my go-to is always like Reno 911, where it's like, it's so funny, but like that kind of stuff does happen. Like just the wildest stuff. And in the middle of a call, you're laughing at your cover partner because whatever. So yeah, it's all fun. All right. We're going to do a lightning round. So I'm going to scroll to my lightning round questions.
Lightning round. Here we go.
All right. So you're a big superhero guy, you mentioned.
Yep.
If you could travel into the land of Marvel, what would your superpower be?
Probably flight.
Okay.
All right.
So just straight up flight. Like just accumulate those miles.
Yeah.
Okay.
What else you got?
You're also a competitive person, because I know back even in the academy days we tried to outdo each other on different tasks and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So thinking of competitiveness, do you love winning or do you hate losing?
I probably hate losing. I wouldn't say I'm overly competitive, especially now. Maybe back in the day when I was a little younger, but I would say hate losing. But
yeah, I agree. Losing, it's horrible.
Right. Yep.
I hate losing more than I love winning. All right, let's see. Spell subpoena.
SUBPEONA.
Ooh, so close. SUBPOENA.
I actually typed this yesterday. I should have known that. So it's close.
Another fun one, but I'm sure you'll get this one. Methamphetamine. Methamphetamine.
METHAMP. Meth.
There's some secret letters in there.
HET. I lost it.
That's okay. That's a toughie.
Yeah.
That's a toughie.
I could type it out, but.
So my favorite was in our academy is they would do occasional spelling tests. And it would be those type of words, subpoena and paraphernalia and stuff. My favorite one was and then we would also switch papers with whoever's around us and grade each other's and then turn them in. I remember I got one of these and I'm grading it. I don't even remember who it was for, but the word was methamphetamine. And it was literally meth, METH, and AND, phetamine, FETAMIN. And I'm like,
I bet it was
you weren't even.
That's probably
the teacher. Yeah,
it was Kyle Kewen probably.
That wasn't me that said that. No, I honestly I have no idea.
Right.
No, and it is funny too. Just looking back, I don't know if you ever. I mean, of our class of what we had, like 26, 28 people.
Yeah.
You know how many are no longer even in law enforcement or didn't stick around very long and just went on to other stuff in the direction of their life. But then the trajectory of some others, because we've got one who's I think he's now a sergeant at an agency in the South Metro area, but he was on their drug task force for a while and he's done amazing things. One's a sitting sheriff for a neighboring county.
Yep.
So I like to, reminisce with him occasionally when we see each other, but just kind of see where people have ended up. But I think out of our initial 10, we're the last 3. So we've got one other of our group.
Yeah. Yeah.
But everybody else has just kind of eventually gone their own path. So, but I'm happy for all of them. I'm happy for you. And I know your shift is benefiting from your leadership and your knowledge that you're bringing to them, and
appreciate it.
Can't wait to see what you do. And I hate getting phone calls from you because you're right. You do get complicated stuff now.
Yes. A few times.
Yeah. So when I get notification from you, it's like, oh, great.
Right.
What'd you guys do now? So,
Yep.
No, just no, keep it up. And again, I mean, the goal is for the community to benefit from what you guys are doing in the agency and just that continued growth. So congrats on that.
Thanks, man.
You're welcome. And then that's another episode of Breaking and Adventuring. So we encourage you guys to just reach out to us and send us an email to communityconnections@adcogov.org with any tips, questions, things we can answer or address on the show. And feel free to follow us on any of our social media platforms for all of our amazing content.